What's up, and welcome back to Gabe Miller Music. Today we're taking a quick look at and making a bit of music with Cube by Lunacy Audio, which I never get tired of saying. Now, they reached out to me and asked if I wanted to do a sponsored video in conjunction with their fall site-wide sale, and I said yes. That means that this video is, for all practical purposes, an ad, and should be treated as such. Regardless, I had quite a bit of fun putting this together, so let's jump in. So this is Cube. It's a sampler with all of these nodes having sample slots in them that you can load a bunch of their samples or your own samples into, and then a bunch of different orbits, which you can, once again, choose from a list of or program yourself, and these will basically fade in and out of the different sounds that you have in different kind of cycles, different levels of intensity, and you can get some kind of cool evolving textures using this. And I get the impression that this is primarily meant for kind of soundtrack and soundscape type stuff, although you absolutely can use it for electronic music, and I'm going to expand quite a bit on that little electronic bit of music that you heard in the intro. But I've been having lots of fun making kind of Warframe soundtrack, Hackerman type beats. So with that out of the way, here's a pretty blatant example of how this thing kind of scans through the different sounds that you have active. And if I leave the main window here and start diving into sounds, you get quite a bit of control, which is nice. And I've been having a good time basically starting with a preset and then tweaking a bunch of stuff about it. So swapping out the sounds, adding all of these little ARP steps, changing stuff like filters and its pan and tuning and volume and envelopes. That's all in here, as well as controls for the actual way the sound plays back itself. And you've got each of these individual controls for all of your different sound slots that, once again, this orbit thing is going to basically scan through. So you can basically keyframe one of these orbits yourself. So let's just do that. I can start it somewhere and hear how that sounds. I'm going to select step 2 here. Yep. Move that to somewhere else. Sounds quite a bit different because we're on kind of different sounds. Let's move that somewhere else. And you can have these be smoothly connected or jump. Let me name this something stupid. Not flawless, but hopefully you see where I'm headed with this. And of course, you've got control over how fast it goes. Or it can like be the slow evolving thing. And you can choose whether or not it re-triggers. And in this case, it definitely does lend itself well to something a little more faux cinematic in my case, because I am not a soundtrack designer. Some of my favorite patches have been these kind of percussive bassline drum pattern things. Or, if you wanted, you could take that farther. That's maybe a bit much. But this does give me an opportunity to talk about the effects, which we have a few. EQ, distortion, which can get fairly intense. Bit crusher. That can be a bit much quite easily, so tread with caution. Compressor, chorus, delay. And a limiter. So you can have everything from more kind of standard sampled sounds like this to stuff that's a little more dynamic like this. Or this, which is fun. kind of works in a different way than what I've seen. And I've also been asked to mention a couple of new things. First of all, there is a new pack by Ben Jordan. That's where this sound comes from, and a few of the sounds I've used throughout this video. And they've added a pack portal where you can pretty easily manage your packs right within the plugin. In particular, I've been using Rumble and then Canopies by Ben Jordan and Dust by Venus Theory quite a bit. But that's my admittedly pretty basic imitation of something video game soundtrack-ish. Let's do something a little more in my wheelhouse, like something a little more progressive housey or minimal techno-ish. So I'm going to play this all the way through and then show you a few individual elements. So, my own drums, kick, and then a shaker loop that's been time stretched quite a bit, and it's been through quite a bit of processing and iterations. And then, all the rest of this is cube. So first of all, this kind of evolving growl-ish bass. Bit Hans Zimmer-ish. That's holding down a lot of our low end. I'm ducking that to the kick. I'm ducking pretty much everything to the kick. This is another one of those kind of rolling percussive bass lines, which is fun. Some subtle evolution. You can take that a lot farther, by the way. That didn't really fit in with the vibe I was going for with this beat, but it is a good time. This kind of complextro-ish element. Bring out your inner Wolfgang Gartner. And then this is the thing that I think really is doing a lot of heavy lifting is this patch. And I've muted a couple of the elements that clashed a little bit. It makes a pretty neat use of these percussive elements. And I've sidechained that. So here's without. Here's with. I just think that's fun. And then this element. Once again, you're probably sensing a trend here. A little bit pulsating with some kind of blah elements. And then we start adding in more stuff. So I've got this art bit. We've got some cool evolution going on here as we cycle around a bunch of these different samples. Then I've gone in, I've tweaked these samples, I've swapped stuff out. In fact, in this case, I made sure that all of these had samples in them. That way, no matter where this orbit ended up, it would have sound that it's playing back. And it moves slowly so that we're just slowly rotating through these different sounds. And we can take that further. That's cool in the abstract, a bit much. Stuff gets a bit lost in the mix. So I try to keep it a bit tighter. We've got all sorts of these to work with. Go faster. Totally different vibe. Some of these will work better or worse for various sounds. It's definitely weird. Not for every use. But I've been having fun with it. Then I've layered on top of that a similar patch. That just cycles through 2 sounds, and then really goes ham on the effects in this case with the filter. Something else worth pointing out is this thing's ability to do pads. This is actually the starting point for that deep evolving bass. It originally sounded like this. Or here's a patch that I've modified, mostly modifying the orbit. It doesn't really work in the mix, it doesn't really stand out, but in isolation, it sounds really pretty. So all that together is how I end up with this mess. One other thing that I discovered while playing around with this is the randomizers. I love a good randomizer in a multi-effects plugin or a synth plugin, and because this is like somewhere in between those, it's a multi-effect sampler. We've got randomized sounds, randomized orbit, and randomized effects. So we're just gonna do it live, just see what it does. Turn off the ducker. Randomize the orbit. Randomize the effects. And not all of this is going to be gold. But it might at least be interesting. Let me do that with a pad, actually. So I'm just going to go in and randomize the sounds, first of all. Randomize the orbit. Randomize the effects. So that's too much. And we have gotten somewhere. That fits the chord progression perfectly. And I think that's a pretty good place to call it. So if you'd like to check out Cube and anything else on the Lunacy Audio site-wide sale, you can check the link in the description. Thank you once again to Lunacy Audio for sponsoring this video, and I'll be back with a new one in a little bit. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching.